Ma'am, unmute ಮಾಡಿ ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone. Respected speaker of today's webinar and participants of today's session, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone. Today, we have gathered virtually for the webinar on coping with COVID-19 hosted by Department of BCA, Kaili Societies Degree College, Nagarabad. Before proceeding further, I would like to share few words about Kaili Society and our department. Karnataka Lingayat Education Society, started in 1916, occupies a very special niche in the field of education, has now grown into a large institution that encompasses an autonomous university and over 270 institutions spread across the country and outside, with over 16,000 employees working to cater the needs of more than 125,000 students. The collaborations with universities in the US, the UK and Malaysia have added a whole new dimension to the Kaili societies, making into par with the reputed educational institutions worldwide. The Department of Bachelor of Computer Applications was started at Kaili Societies Degree College, Nagarbavi in 2017 with a mission to provide high quality computer education to the students. The institution grooms its students to excel as future technicians. We have plenty of learning opportunities for our students. We are associated with ICT Academy, UiPath, Oracle, Palo Alto, AWS Academy, Micro Focus and Salesforce. Spurti, an initiative by women faculties of Department of Bachelor of Computer Applications, is a women club which aims to empowering and orienting women to realize their true potential and help them to attain their own standard in the competitive world. Its goal is overall development of all the women on the campus in all spheres of their life. It also helps in creating awareness about important issues related to women and provides a forum for discussion and deliberation on a range of issues.
They're not audible, Archita. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Tell me.
Hello.
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 You're audible, ma'am. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
You're audible, ma'am. Kavishwara.
Hello. Kelstala.
The speaker of today's session is Dr. Mamata Jogat. She has completed MBBS from Mahadeva Rampur Medical College, Gulbarga, Diploma in Anesthesia from Jagadguru Jayadeva Murugarajendra Medical College, Davangere, and DNB Anesthesia from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. Presently, she is working as Associate Professor at Department of Anesthesiology and Critical Care, Shamnur Shivshankarappa Institute of Medical Science and Research Center, Davangere. Today, we are going through one of the worst pandemics the humankind has faced. The fight against coronavirus is led by the frontline workers. One of the frontline workers are doctors. I take this opportunity to acknowledge and congratulate the work done by the doctors. With these words, I request Dr. Mamata Jogat to present her talk. Over to you, ma'am. Hello.
Hello.
Hello? Hello? Ma'am, you are audible, ma'am. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello, Arpita.
Ma'am, you are audible, ma'am. You can proceed.
Kedstala. Arpita, I'm not able to hear.
Hello?
You can hear my voice. Can I start?
Yes. You can start, ma'am.
Can I start?
You can start, ma'am.
Okay, but I'm not able to hear you. There's some issue.
Okay.
Maybe a problem. Okay, fine. Let me start. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, one and all. Sorry for the delay. There was some technical issue. We doctors are not very much used to dealing with these computers and Zoom and all. Probably things will settle with after some time. So let me start for the day. Good afternoon. I think you have had your lunch and feeling quite sleepy now. I'll try to keep you all awake with my through my presentation. In the last few days, I happened to go through some of the webinars that in this platform. What I saw was most of them were related to computer applications. So my webinar, my talk is going to be new and slightly different. So I'll have to catch your attention to my presentation, and I'll try and do my best. I'll be going a bit slow so that I can make you understand every aspect of it. As Mrs. Arpita has told everything about me and my talk for the day, I just gear up with my presentation. It's already getting late, I suppose. Yeah. Consumed a lot of time in this. Okay. Today, what topic I've chosen is coping with COVID-19. Why I chose this topic? I just want to share my screen once again. Okay. I know you have come across a lot of things about COVID-19 in the last few months, but still I chose to talk about this topic because I wanted to create more awareness about this, about COVID-19 disease and take your knowledge to more depths. Before starting, I want to just brief up on what I'm going to exactly speak for today. I will be speaking in brief about the coronavirus, the virus per se, about how it spreads, what are the symptoms of coronavirus, and how we diagnose and treat the disease. And I'll be speaking more in elaborate about how to prevent the disease, what you're supposed to do if you get infected with corona infection. I'll also highlight some of the mythbusters, and at last, I will also want to address on how you can keep yourself, your work atmosphere, your workplace, schools, colleges, etc., prepared to get back to work. So, what is coronavirus? It's a kind of common virus that causes an infection in your nose, your sinuses, and your throat. COVID-19 is a disease caused by one of the new strains of this coronavirus, that is SARS-CoV-2, and what we doctors call as respiratory tract infection is triggered by this virus. It can involve both the upper respiratory tract, that is the nose, sinuses, and the throat, or the lower respiratory tract, that is the windpipe and the lungs. And when it involves the lower respiratory tract, the patient presents with severe form of the disease. Okay. Through my presentation, I'll be dealing with some of the terms which you are definitely not familiar to. So I'll just define them and make you a bit familiar. WHO is the World Health Organization, and CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. These are the two supreme global health advisories, and it's the protocols and guidelines set by these that we generally happen to follow treating the COVID-19 patients on a day-to-day basis. What's an epidemic? It's the rapid spread of disease to a large number of people in a given population within a very short period of time. So it will include only a group of population, whereas pandemic, it's a worldwide spread of a new disease. And epidemiology is the scientific study of diseases, how they are formed, spread, and how they are controlled in groups of people. Next, coming to the incubation period. Just make a note of this. It will be a carry home message for you. I know you must have heard, all of you must have heard of this term, but most of you might have not understood what it exactly means. Incubation period, it is the period between the infection and appearance of the signs of the disease. What I mean by this is the time period between when the virus has entered your body and when you start having symptoms. This is important because this is the time period when you are very infectious. In the sense, you will be spreading infection to a lot of people. What is fatality rate or case fatality rate? It is a proportion of deaths from a certain disease compared to the deaths of people diagnosed from the disease for a particular period. I'll explain this with an example. If there are 100 COVID-19 patients, only 2.3 to 5 of them tend to die of the disease. Then what is FDA? Food and Drug Administration. It's a federal agency of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, and it is responsible for protecting public health. Okay. Next, coming to the coronavirus proper, how the virus looks. I know you're all familiar with how it looks because media shows it in quite different colors. Of course, it looks beautiful, right? What makes it look beautiful is these glycoprotein spikes over the envelope, over the body of the coronavirus, and these give it an appearance of a crown. And the Latin name for crown is coronum, hence the name COVID-19. Okay. What is the epidemiology of COVID-19? Let me go in short. Since the first report of the disease in Wuhan, China in December 2019, as you all know, increasing numbers of COVID-19 cases have been reported globally over the last few months. The coronavirus disease progressed rapidly and the number has outpaced that seen in the country of its origin, that is in China. Hence, WHO declared the COVID-19 as a pandemic. On February 11, 2020, the International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses named the virus as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, what we call as SARS-CoV-2. And the WHO announced the epidemic disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 as coronavirus disease 2019, what we know as COVID-19. So now, how does corona spread? So it's known to spread by two ways. One is from person to person and another is from contact. As you can see in this picture, when a patient infected with COVID-19 coughs, sneezes, or even talks for that matter, the salivary droplets that come out of his mouth tend to travel for a distance of at least 2 meters. And if you are there in that within that distance and not wearing a mask, you are likely to get infected. So this is why we stress on social distancing of at least 2 meters or up to 6 feet. Okay, and as these droplets travel, they tend to after they have traveled, they tend to settle on the objects that in the transit. These can be the objects we generally come across or tend to come in contact with on a daily basis, like the doorknobs or the lift buttons or your digital items like your laptop, phones, tabs, etc., even the pens. So if you happen to touch something contaminated like this and then touch your face or you touch another space, you definitely contact infection. If there had been a lot of confusion as to how long the virus survives on these surfaces that it tends to settle on. A lot of research has happened on this aspect, but nothing confirmed has come out. But to the knowledge we have till now, the virus is known to stay on the plastic and steel for up to 3 days, and on copper items for up to 4 hours, on cardboard for up to 24 hours, and it's seen to stay on your hands for several hours, and it's airborne. It remains in the air for up to 30 minutes in closed spaces, especially. That's why you have to avoid social gatherings. Right. Coming to the symptoms of coronavirus now. I'm sure you're all familiar with the symptoms, and the media has kept you enlightened with all the symptoms on a daily basis. I just brush through. The patient might generally present with fever, which may be mild or severe form of fever, headache, body aches, generalized body aches, or also chills and sweats. In severe forms of disease, the patient may present with breathing difficulty. Okay, and this is when the lungs have started getting involved, and the patient is having difficulty breathing. Here, then pneumonia, the severe form of the disease, that is pneumonia, has set in. The patient may also present, along with the symptoms which I just mentioned, also present with some gastrointestinal symptoms like vomiting or diarrhea. Shall I take the questions at the end, please? If you don't mind, put it in the chat box, and I'll take up a few questions at the end. As you can see, vomiting and diarrhea also are one of part of the symptoms of COVID-19. Okay. What generally happens is most of the people, when they develop milder flu-like symptoms, somewhere at the corner of their mind they know that they feel that they're infected with COVID-19, and if they go to a doctor, then he'll test them, he'll tag them as COVID-19, and he might as well isolate them either at home or in the hospital or somewhere else away from the family. So with this fear, they stay back home, treat themselves with some anti-flu drugs, which is not right. This is dangerous not only for them but also for their near and dear ones around them. So please don't do this. Whenever you have flu-like symptoms, please go to the doctor, get tested. Positive or negative, it's okay, because 80% of the population coming with COVID-19 have mild symptoms, and they come out of COVID-19 disease clean and very soon. Okay, but even if you have done this or otherwise, when is that you have to get to the doctor emergently? That is, what is the emergency situation where you have to get to the doctor? Whenever you have breathing difficulty or shortness of breath, when you are having persistent pain in your chest or feeling of pressure in your chest, and there is some new confusion or inability to arouse. But in the present, patient might go into deep sleep. You might not able to arouse him, awake, get him up. Or his lips become bluish, face becomes bluish. Coming to the course of the disease, as I already mentioned what the incubation period is. For corona, for the COVID-19, the incubation period is from 2 to 14 days. It may go longer also. And you have to be very careful during these days because you are likely to spread the disease to others in this period because you are very infective. So this is why the period of quarantine is set at 14 days. And coming to the spectrum of illness and severity of the disease, this can be explained by dividing COVID-19 symptoms as mild, severe, and critical. In milder forms of the disease, where the patient may be symptomatic, may not be symptomatic. If symptomatic, only with mild illness. This is seen in 80% of the people. Whereas in severe illness, there is more than 50% of the lung involvement, and this is seen in 14% of the patients. And critical illness is what is to be worried about. Here, the lungs start getting involved. There is respiratory failure. Patient has very severe respiratory difficulty, breathing difficulty. Patient may be in shock. What I mean by that is his blood pressure may vary, it may be on the higher side or on the lower side. And other vital organs of our body like the brain, liver, heart, kidneys, etc. start getting involved because oxygen is crucial for all the organs in the body. And this critical type of illness is seen only in 5% of the people. And the overall case fatality rate is between 2.3 to 5% only, as I told earlier. Okay, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has set a high-risk population, and I felt you need to know about it. This population includes two groups of people who are at very high risk of getting severe COVID-19 disease. Okay, the first group is the older age group, more than 70 years of age, and people with severe chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, cancer, hypertension, chronic liver disease, and many more. So in these patients, you have to be very careful because they need utmost care. So how will you diagnose COVID-19? How is COVID-19 diagnosed? So when you go to the doctor, he will recommend the COVID-19 testing for you, if at all you have symptoms of COVID-19, as I already mentioned, like fever, cough, shortness of breath. Or you have come in contact with a patient who has tested positive, or if you are at high risk of complications, if you become infected with COVID-19. Okay. So what are the tests? The US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has approved two types of tests generally. That is, one is a molecular test and another one is the antigen test. The molecular test is also called as the RT-PCR test, the reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction test. This test is very sensitive. The results of this test are very accurate, but the time taken for the test is long. You'll have to wait for the result for the longer time. And what is antigen test? The antigen test, also known as the rapid antigen test, this gives faster results and it is less expensive compared to molecular test, but it is less sensitive compared to the molecular test. What I mean by that is the chances of having false negative results, I'll explain later, are higher with antigen test. And since it gives faster result and it is less expensive, it is generally used for community screening, so as to find the infected people and prevent spread on a larger scale. Okay, going to this, let me tell what happens after you are tested. You either are positive or negative, and in neither of the cases you are false negative. What is a positive test? Positive test says you are infected with COVID-19 and you will be isolated. What a negative test suggests? Negative test suggests that you most likely are not infected with COVID-19 unless you are false negative. And what is this false negative test? This happens when the sample is taken in the disease process in the earlier part of the disease process or in the later part, where the viral load is not very high and the test may turn out to be negative, but you're still infected. And also in cases where the sample has not been taken properly. In these cases, you might turn negative, but you're not actually. You still have the virus, so you have to isolate yourself in that case also. Okay. What is this self-isolation? So self-isolation is when a person who is experiencing fever or cough or the COVID-19 symptoms has to stay back at home and does not go to work, school or public places. This can be voluntarily done or it is done based on his or her health workers' recommendation. So what are you supposed to know when you are isolated or quarantined? See that you isolate yourself at home in particular. If you are isolated, see that you are in a well-ventilated single room with preferably with a bathroom. Don't share the room. Wear a mask always, whether you are symptomatic, not symptomatic, doesn't matter. And don't come in contact with elders at your home, kids at your home, or if there are any pregnant women or people with multiple diseases. And then avoid attending any social gatherings or religious gatherings. It's very important. And don't share your items, your utensils, your clothes, etc. You should have your own when you are quarantined. Right. Now coming to the treatment aspect of COVID-19, I want to. This will be, if I go in too much in detail, it will be difficult for you all to get it and remember. So I have tried to make it as simple as possible. Arpita, this annotate is not working for me. It'd been better if I could point out. Pointer isn't working. Hello. Okay. I just described it. Try to follow me. When the patient comes with when the patient is positive for RT-PCR, that is COVID positive, we divide these patients as mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic, moderately symptomatic, and severely symptomatic. What I mean by mildly symptomatic is patient is having milder symptoms or he is not symptomatic at all, no symptoms at all. So such patients, we look for their heart rate, their blood pressure, and if they have any other diseases, associated diseases. If they don't have all these and their vitals are stable, we home isolate them, put them on some vitamins, and ask them to monitor their temperature on a regular basis and get back whenever required. But when the patient is having moderate symptoms, we'll admit the patient, we'll get the basic blood tests done, like the CBC, CRP, LFT, RFT, etc. And we will monitor his saturation, that is SaO2. What is saturation? It is the oxygen content of the patient's blood. This is very important and it's a diagnostic tool for us to know his improvement. If that is normal, so again, depending on that, there are two groups. If the SaO2 remains normal, then the patient will be put on paracetamol, vitamins, and will let him get isolated at home. If there is a provision for home isolation, but with SpO2 monitoring, or get him isolated in the hospital. In the other group, if the saturation is decreased, if it is below 90%, then that suggests that he'll need oxygen supplementation. So we'll admit him, we'll give him oxygen depending on his requirement. We'll add extra medications like the antiviral drugs. You might have be familiar with these: favipiravir, remdesivir, etc. Then coming to the severe form of disease, this is where the patient comes with respiratory difficulty, severe respiratory difficulty. He'll surely need admission. We'll get all the blood tests done, and we'll go higher up on the blood tests or investigations. We'll get a CT scan of the chest also, and we'll have to admit him either to a ward or to usually to an ICU or a high dependency unit, depending on his oxygen requirement. If he has low oxygen requirement, he will be in a high dependency unit. If he has high oxygen requirement, or he might need a ventilator at times, he will be admitted in the ICU. And along with all other medications, he'll also have to be started on tocilizumab, which is another higher antiviral drug. Okay, hope I have not stressed you up or scared you with all this information. Continuously living with the hormones of stress, fear, and anxiety will only invite more disease. So instead, let us start living with more awareness and the right knowledge. And as always said, prevention is better than cure always. So how do we prevent COVID-19? I'm sure you all know what are the preventive measures you have to take on a daily basis to keep yourself away from COVID-19. I'll go in more detail about each one of these. Just to brush up, you have to wear a medical mask, wash your hands regularly with soap and water, cover up your cough or sneeze, avoid touching your nose, mouth frequently, keep a meter distance away from others, and stay home as much as possible when you're sick until you recover, or even otherwise, don't get out of your homes unless it is really necessary. So what is that you have to know more about? The masks, wearing the mask. The masks can be generally divided as non-medical masks and the medical masks. Non-medical masks are the ones that the fabric masks are the ones which we get in the every nook and corner of the city now. You can choose anything of your choice, but see that it is a good quality one. So what are you supposed to know about what are the do's of the mask, or what you're supposed to know before wearing the mask? So you have to keep your wash your hands before touching the mask. See that the mask is not torn or damaged, otherwise it will not solve the purpose. And you have to wear a proper fitting mask. What I mean by that is it has to cover your nose, mouth, as well as your chin, and it should not be loose fitting. Neither it should be too tight fitting also. Otherwise, you will not be able to breathe. Don't touch your mask, the front of your mask unnecessarily. And when you want to take off the mask, please clean your hands with sanitizer and place it in and you have to take it out from your ears like this and just pull it away. Don't touch the front of the mask and put it in a clean polythene bag if you want to use it again for the day, but make sure you wash it with in detergent water or soap water once in 24 hours and clean your hands after you've done it. What are the don'ts? Some of them I've already mentioned. Don't use damaged masks, don't use loose fitting masks. One more thing is, many people feel suffocated when they put it over their nose, so they tend to keep getting it down under the nose. Don't do that. It is neither safe for you nor for the others. Then don't take off the mask while you're speaking to others, and don't use dirty masks. Don't absolutely share your masks. Now, coming to the medical masks, these are generally worn by the health professionals and other healthcare workers who come in direct contact with COVID-19 patients. Okay, the precautions you have to take will remain the same: hand washing and the choosing the proper mask and all that. One thing that is different is you definitely cannot reuse a medical mask. Once used, it has to be discarded in a closed bin. What are the don'ts? The don'ts also remain the same. Don't touch the mask frequently. Don't use damaged masks. Please don't reuse the mask. Okay. And what more about hand washing? Right. The CDC, as already mentioned, the Center for Disease Control recommends washing hands with soap and water whenever possible, because hand washing reduces the amounts of all types of germs and chemicals on your hands. If soap and water are not available, using hand sanitizers with at least 60% of alcohol will help avoid getting sick and spreading the disease. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers can quickly reduce the number of microbes on your hands in some situations, but sanitizers do not eliminate all types of germs. Please don't consume alcohol-based sanitizers. They may cause alcohol poisoning. How and when and how frequently should you wash your hands? That remains the same as you normally do. Other than that, you have to wash your hands after after coughing or sneezing, and when you are caring for the sick at home, and also when your hands are visibly dirty, or when you are handling animals or animal wastes. Okay. What should I use for washing my hands? There has always been a confusion whether soap and water is better or sanitizers are better. What the World Health Organization says is, wash your hands with soap and running water when hands are visibly dirty. Okay, your hands are dirty, then you have to wash with soap and water only. If your hands are not visibly dirty, you can wash with soap and water, or you can go for alcohol-based hand rubs. So both WHO and CDC recommend soap and water over sanitizers. Why that? Because the sanitizers will not eliminate all kinds of germs on your hands. One thing. Secondly, people do not correctly use the sanitizers. In the sense, they don't take adequate amount of sanitizer on their hands. They don't let the sanitizer dry on their hands. Okay, they just wipe it off with the towel, so that it has not acted at all. And thirdly, sanitizers may not be effective on dirty or greasy hands. So it's better to go for soap and water. If you do not have soap and water, go for alcohol-based sanitizers. Make sure it has at least 60% of alcohol in it. Okay, now I am sick. How do I keep others safe from me? So if I'm sick, I'm coughing or sneezing, make sure to cover your mouth and nose with your flexed hand, your folded elbow, sorry, or it's better to use have tissue at hand and use it whenever you're coughing or sneezing. And after you have used the tissue, make sure you throw it in a closed bin and wash your hands with soap and water thoroughly. Now more about social distancing. I already mentioned why social distancing is important. And now the doubt is whether I have to maintain social distancing and how much social distancing. Maintain at least 6 feet of 6 feet or 2 meters of social distance, because that is the distance the salivary droplets tend to uh, spread when one coughs. Should I maintain social distance even at home? Yes, you have to maintain social distance at home if someone is sick at home or you yourself are sick, and also outside, and avoid crowded places. So what is the purpose of social distancing? I think this slide will help you understand. When there is no social distancing practiced, you see one person is likely to infect 2.5 more people in 5 days and 406 people in 30 days. That's a quite huge number. But when 50% of exposure is there, that is 50% of social distancing is being practiced, then one person is likely to infect only 1.25 people in 5 days and 15 people in 30 days. Quite a difference, right? And when 75% less exposure is there, one person will infect only 0.625 people and in 5 days, and in 30 days is likely to infect only 2.5 people. That's a huge difference. So please stick to social distancing. So after having known all this, what will be your plan of action to be fit, fine, and healthy during these COVID times? In the sense, what lifestyle changes you're supposed to make to bring in to keep COVID-19 away. What I feel is you have to concentrate more on your diet, the way you have the pattern of eating, and most importantly on holistic living. So with your regular diet, please, in your regular diet, try to add more of immunity boosting foods. You'll find a huge list everywhere on social media or when you browse for it. I have just listed a few. You can choose to your choice. Okay? Drumsticks are known to be one of the superfoods. They help in boosting your immunity and act as shields against the viruses within you. Having the coconut water with lemon is known to increase the vitamin C levels in your body and boost your immunity. Our age-old traditional foods like garlic, onion, turmeric are known to kill bacteria, the bad bacteria within us. They are super antimicrobials. Having seeds like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, lot more, at least 3 to 4 spoons a day will provide you with substantial quantities of healthy fats, magnesium, zinc. They are very rich in antioxidants, and these are vital for your immune function. Coming to the red capsicum, this is very good because it has it's very rich in vitamin C. The vitamin C in red capsicum is 3 times more than that seen in orange. What is the right pattern of eating? It is suggested to go for more of raw vegetables and fruits, of course thoroughly washed, in most of your meals rather than eating cooked food, because cooked food, with cooking, the nutrients in the food tend to come down. Eating fruits on empty stomach or before a meal, having a lot of cucumber, carrot, etc., will build up your immunity, not only build up your immunity, but also make your system, the body system, alkaline. Because an acidic environment in your body is very favorable for microbial growth. Then having a lot of water, up to more than 2 liters a day, will wash out the toxins from your body and maintain a fluid balance, a healthy fluid balance. And the last one goes without saying that avoid junk food, deep fried foods, and packaged foods. And what do I mean by focusing on holistic wellness? is keeping the stress and fear factor away. It's not possible to totally take them off from your lives, but you should learn to cope with them and to try to keep them away as much as possible. How do you cope with them? I mean, why do you have to cope with them? Because why do you have to keep them away? Because stress and fear are known to have a bad impact on your immune system. They weaken your immune system. So you have to keep them away or cope with them either by practicing pranayam or yoga. What best than these? Pranayam or the deep breathing exercises will also help you in strengthening your respiratory system. Will strengthen your breathing. And then take proper rest. Have good sound sleep, at least 8 hours a day. And most importantly, practice gratitude and love. Just as the sanitizers and masks work as shields on the outside, your healthy thoughts and immunity are your inner shields. Every moment, I repeat, every moment, please thank God for being safe, strong, and healthy. Just like we can spread a disease, we can also spread love and gratitude, and it's going to make a huge impact. And then maintain good hygiene, washing your hands, make it a habit. Meditation is again part of your pranayama yoga. It's nothing but mindfulness, and it is the basic human ability to be present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and not overreact or be overwhelmed by what's going on around. Then being overreactive or being overwhelmed with all that is going around, you will stress yourself up more. And then you can go for intermittent fasting. This is not a diet, it's an eating pattern. It's an eating cycle between periods of fasting and feasting. In this, people go for periods of fasting and periods of feasting. That is, if you go for a 16:8 ratio, people will you will be fasting for a period of 16 hours in a day and have all your meals in the rest of the 8 hours. It will not say what to eat, it will say how to eat whatever you are eating. In the last few months, people have ill understood a lot about COVID-19 than we doctors have been able to well understand. Hence, there are a lot of myths have evolved and have remained as questions to all of us. I'll try to burst a few of them. Right. What's the myth? Wearing rubber gloves while out in public is effective in preventing the new COVID-19 disease. Fact, no. Even if you're wearing your rubber gloves, you are likely to pick up contamination when you touch some surfaces outside. And when you touch your face with these contaminated gloves, you're likely to transmit the virus onto your face and infect yourself. Myth: spraying or introducing bleach or any other disinfectant on your body or into your body will prevent from COVID-19 infection. No. Spraying or doing anything like this will not prevent you from getting infected with COVID-19. Rather, these substances can be poisonous if ingested and cause irritation and damage to your skin and your eyes. So please don't do it. Myth: there is been a dictum nowadays that when you can hold your breath for more than 10 seconds without coughing or feeling any discomfort, you are likely to be free of coronavirus. No. Fact is, COVID-19 can only be confirmed with diagnostic laboratory testing and not by breathing exercises. What's the myth? COVID-19 is transmitted only in humid climates. Fact: COVID-19 can be transmitted in any climate, be it hot or humid. Myth: taking bath with hot water once or twice a day, or even drinking hot water can prevent infection from COVID-19. This is not true. The fact is, whatever temperature of water you take bath with, the inner body temperature will remain between 36 and 37 degrees centigrade. That is the normal physiology of our body. That doesn't change. So taking hot water bath will not definitely help. Rather, it might cause more harm and burn your skin. Myth: vaccines against other pneumonias like pneumococcal pneumonia, influenza pneumonia, etc., can help prevent COVID-19 infection. Fact: the viruses, this COVID-19 coronavirus is so new and so different that it needs its own new vaccine. No other vaccine has been helpful against this disease. And a lot of research has been going on within this aspect with the support of WHO in the last few months. Eating garlic can prevent coronavirus. No. Garlic is of course a healthy food and it has a lot of antimicrobial properties, but there has been no evidence from the current outbreak that eating garlic can protect people from getting infected with COVID-19. Myth: only older age group people and kids below 10 years are likely to get infected with COVID-19. Fact: people of all ages can be infected with the new coronavirus. But on this note, I would like to mention that older people and kids are more susceptible to get infected with COVID-19, and if they get infected, they'll be presenting with severe form of the disease. Okay. Antibiotics which we use are likely to prevent infection from coronavirus. No. Antibiotics do not work against viruses, they only work against bacteria. Still, we add antibiotics when the patient gets admitted to the hospital with coronavirus, COVID-19. This is to combat the bacterial co-infection, or the bacterial infection that is also seen in these patients because of the decreased immunity in them. Are there any specific medicines as of now to prevent or treat coronavirus? No. Till date, there is no specific medicine recommended to prevent or treat COVID-19. Whatever medications we use is to treat the symptoms of the patient and not the disease per se. We are only treating the fever, cough, or any added bacterial infection, trying to build up his immunity, etc., etc. Okay. Are you ready for more tips now? I think this will interest you. Can you wear masks while exercising? Okay. I suggest you go for yoga and pranayama safe at your homes. But still, if you are used to or want to exercise or cycle in the morning, cycle outside, please maintain a distance of 6 feet from others, and please don't wear masks, because wearing masks may reduce the ability to breathe comfortably. Your oxygen requirement will increase when you are exercising or during strenuous activities. So you'll not be able to breathe comfortably. It will rather decrease the oxygen supply. And sweating will actually soil your masks and decrease its functionality, and also pave way for microbial growth. This is a $100 question, I suppose. How should I wash my vegetables or my fruits in the COVID-19 times? Okay. The WHO recommends no special ways for washing your vegetables and fruits. Wash your hands before touching them. Wash them in clean running water, not once, if not once, twice, and let them dry. That's all you're supposed to do. Does COVID-19 spread through coins or banknotes? Currently, there is no evidence to disprove this. I mean, no evidence to disprove that it spreads through banknotes and coins. So if you have happened to touch these during your day-to-day activities, make sure you don't touch your face before washing your hands, and please wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water. How do I wash and dry my clothes, towels, bed linen, etc. when nobody infected is there in my home? There has been a lot of doubt whether I should go for a washing machine, use special dryers, or go for very hot water. No, the WHO says you can wash your clothes as you've normally been doing, but make sure that your hands are clean. You wash your hands before storing your clothes after they are dried. Okay. Now I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Science says we are going to live with COVID-19 for another couple of years. Though not this rampant, but it will stay with us. So how do I prepare my workplace, my school, college, or university when I get back to work in the near future to keep my employees and my students safe? A better workplace is a better world. So in your workplace, promote good respiratory hygiene, ensure that surgical masks and tissues are available in the workplaces for those who, for everybody for that matter, but in particular for those who have running nose or cough at work. And along with that, make sure these used tissues are discarded in closed, clean, closed bins. Make sure to see that the surfaces like the desks, tables, your digital items like the laptops, mouse, etc., telephones, keyboards are wiped and disinfected regularly. Promote regular, if there has been an outbreak in your community or at your workplace, promote regular teleworking, because teleworking will not only keep your business on operating, but also will keep your employees safe. See that your employees strictly comply with the local travel restrictions, not just the place from where you're traveling, or also to the restrictions that are applied in the near destination, and to avoid large gatherings and unnecessary movements. Promote regular and thorough hand washing. Put sanitizing hand dispensers in prominent places around your workplace and make them accessible to your staff, contractors, and customers so that they can be able to wash their hands regularly. So what about social distancing at your workplace? Let's make a note of this. Firstly, you have to avoid any in-person meetings. Use online conferencing, email or telephone or phone conversations whenever possible, even when the person is in the same building. Okay? So when this is not avoidable and the in-person meetings are not avoidable, you should go for short meetings, and the rooms you choose should be large enough to maintain social distancing and avoid handshaking absolutely. Third, eliminate unnecessary travel and cancel your non-essential meetings, gatherings, workshops, conferences, etc. In your work sessions. Next, do not congregate in workrooms, pantries, copier rooms, or other areas where people socialize, even if you keep a 6 feet distance from others. And then coming to the lunch, bring your lunch, have it at your desk. Do not share, avoid lunch rooms and crowded restaurants. Coming to the transport, avoid public transport as much as possible. You can walk, cycle, or drive your own car. But if public transport is unavoidable, start early or late to avoid rush hours. How to operate the schools, colleges, and universities during the COVID times. CDC has recommended, the Center for Disease Control has recommended a few recommendations to the administrators, teachers, and staff to keep the environment safe. Sick students, teachers, and other staff should not come to school. Enforce regular hand washing with safe water and soap, alcohol rub or hand sanitizers, or chlorine solution, and at a minimum, a daily disinfection and cleaning of surfaces should be done. Provide water, sanitation, and waste management facilities and follow environmental cleaning and decontamination procedures. Promote social distancing, and this is a term applied to certain actions that have to be taken in schools and colleges, like skipping rows, sitting rows, maintaining distance, and restricting the number of pupils sitting on a bench. And you can go for shift schools. Sorry, shift timings, I mean. And if there are dormitories in schools or colleges, see that students avoid sharing items with the roommates or others. If you do, then clean and disinfect before sharing. In shared bathrooms, please avoid placing your toothbrush directly on the counter surfaces. Use photos to store your personal items. In the classrooms, enroll in online classes. I repeat, enroll in online classes if they fit your educational needs. If not, you can try to do all these. Wipe down your desks with disinfectant wipe if possible every day. Skip seats or rows to create physical distance between other students. Avoid placing your personal items like the cell phones, your pens, etc. on your desk. Dining halls and meals, avoid sharing food, drink, or any other items with people. Pick up, grab and go option would be the best, and avoid buffets and self-service stations. In the laundry rooms, clean and disinfect surfaces that others have touched. Wash these covers in the warmest appropriate water, a setting for that fabric. And please don't, when you step out of your houses or your rooms, please don't forget to carry your face mask, sanitizer, your and disinfectant wipes if possible. This is what is going to be the picture of the schools and colleges in the near future. So lastly, what are the guiding principles to keep in mind? Please make a note. This is going to be a carry-home message here. According to the CDC, there is very low risk, the lowest risk of catching infection when students and teachers engage in virtual-only classes, activities, and events. There is more risk when small in-person classes, activities, and events are happening. A group of students stay together and with the same teacher throughout the day, through the school days, and the groups don't mix. Students remain at least 6 feet, or in the sense they maintain social distancing and don't share their objects. There is highest risk when full-sized in-person classes, activities, and events are happening. Students are not spaced apart. They share classroom materials or supplies and mix between classes and activities. Okay, with this, I want to end my presentation with a note. I'm just done with my COVID duty. I'm staying in this room away from my family for the last 10 days. Okay. During our COVID work, we doctors have to wear the PPE kit, the personal protection kit, when we work in the wards and the ICU. The kit covers every part of our existence and keeps us short of breath. It's quite uncomfortable and very suffocating to be donned in this outfit for hours together. And added to this, the fear of getting infected yourself, believe me, scares us to death every minute. We doctors or the healthcare professionals do not work because we are being tagged as frontline warriors or the COVID warriors, etc. We work thinking it's our responsibility and our service to the society. If you feel that we have been doing a little bit to the society and you want to pay back, then please do one thing: stay home and stay safe. We'll all fight this disease together. Our government, we doctors, or the researchers or scientists can only make rules, set rules or laws and guidelines. We cannot impose them on the public. It's you who has to act on these effectively and help us set this world free of this deadly disease. Thank you for staying safe. I don't know, I'm not able to get any of your voices, Arpita. I'm not able to hear you. What the issue is.
Thank you, madam. That was a wonderful and enlightenment time. Now we have come to end the session on management, the institution and the organ.
Hello. Hello. Arpita, you're not audible.
Thank you, madam. That was a wonderful and enlightenment time. Now we have come to an end of the session. On behalf of the management, the institution and the organizers, I thank speakers of today's webinar, Dr. Mamata Jogat, for enthralling the audience with your talk. I am very thankful to Professor Vijay Kumar AS, Principal, Paley Society's Degree College, for successfully organizing the webinar. I thank faculty members of Department of BCA for helping to organize this webinar. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all the participants and for making this webinar a success. Thank you one and all.
Hello. Okay. I will just. I can go for the questions. One of the questions is from Ali Ansari. When is the vaccine going to come exactly in India? It's not known till now. Still a lot of trials are going on, and every month we are getting a new date. We just wait and hope it comes soon. Can you just post in your questions in the chat box? I will try to answer a few of them. There's one question from Alvesaji. Will the pandemic come to an end? And how about the money of the vaccine? And will it satisfy to give all? And how people are financially to afford everything? Okay. The pandemic is definitely going to end, but it will take its time. And speaking about the financial aspect of the vaccine and all, I think it's quite too early. The pandemic, it takes its own course. There is first a peak. It's going to remain at the peak for some time and then drop. That's what has been seen in most of the countries. Yes, there's one more question from Siddhant. Yes, there have been cases where the patients have contacted COVID-19 after having recovered from COVID-19. But the pathophysiology is not known yet exactly. But it's seen that after they cured of COVID-19, most of the patients are coming up with other lung issues, respiratory problems, which are the complications of COVID-19. There's one more question here. What's the possibility of contacting with testing equipments? Yes, there are. This is again by Siddhant. There are chances of contacting infection by the testing equipment also, but we take utmost care in the laboratories that this doesn't happen. Arpita, can we end the session? There's one more question from Premalata. Yeah, after having if the patient has been infected with COVID-19, especially in severe forms of disease, the changes that have happened in his lungs tend to remain so. And in the later stages, his functionability of the lungs is known to come down. Most of the patients are coming back with complications of COVID-19 after having cured COVID-19. They're coming with complications like lung fibrosis, etc. It can cause permanent lung problems. Any more questions? Yes, COVID-19 can, this is from Suchitra. COVID-19 is known to also spread through air, but mostly in closed spaces where it tends to stay for up to 30 minutes. Okay, any other organ problems? Yes, if the patient lands up in the hospital in a severe form of the disease, with the lungs getting infected, and he is worsening, there is decreased oxygen supply to most of the organs, and oxygen is very vital to all the organs in the body. So other organs also start getting affected, like the kidney, brain, the heart, etc. And in these situations, what by our experience, we see the patient does not generally recover. Okay. Ali Ansari has put in one more question. Does animals affect COVID-19? I need to check on this. I don't have the exact information. We'll definitely let you know if you send me your contacts. Okay, I think I've answered most of your questions. If you need any more information, you can contact me on my mail, putting your questions on my mail. And I would like to thank the KLE, BCA College, and also the Spurti Women's Health Club. Particularly, I want to thank the principal, Professor Vijay Kumar, and also Arpita for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform and share my knowledge about COVID-19. Hope this session has been informative and you have a lot of carry home message. Okay, I'll be available anytime if you want any more information on any other topic. Thank you. It will be a pleasure getting into this platform again.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, feedback link will be shared soon. Okay, I request you to hold on. Ma'am, you can leave the meeting, ma'am. It's okay if I'll handle the participants. Ma'am, is it audible?